Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Salon Lounge at Dixon Place. And it's my pleasure to be guest hosting tonight. Our host, Amy, is not feeling so well tonight, so I'm going to pinch hit tonight. But she will be here presenting her piece, though, which is wonderful. So, again, Heidi Russell, I'm founder of International Women Artists Salon, which began in 2008, and we've just been growing and connect thousands of artists around the world, all different disciplines. We have a weekly radio show, and this wonderful showcase here at Dixon Place monthly. Usually we're doing this on Saturdays, the third Saturday of each month, but this month we had to do some changing around for Dixon's main stage requirements and needs later in the month. So here we are, Monday night. And I really appreciate coming out on a Monday night. I know it's kind of a, getting the week going day, so it's a little bit of a challenge. So again, thank you to Dixon Place, Ellie Coven, and to her staff, which provides this amazing space for artists to present their work, emerging new pieces, etc. And this is our 5th year here with Dixon, so it's a great partnership. And thank you to our bartender, Leah, over there. And be sure to patron her as much as possible and tip her well. So this is our monthly Salon Lounge at Dixon Place showcase, which I mentioned. And our goal with this is to present to the public a smorgasbord of disciplinary work. And some of it's interdisciplinary pieces, as you'll see one tonight. And other times it's specific disciplines, but we try to do a theater piece, a film or video, a literature piece, and then some other performance piece like dance, music, or comedy, and then also have a visual artist represented. So tonight it's one of our first nights we don't actually have a film or video, but we have some great artists here. And the other thing that we like to do is present the work around a theme. And tonight we have gathered the artists who have work that speak to legacies, fibers, and connections, whether it's ancestral or familial or other such connections and fiber building. And we also like to honor an historical woman creative to help rewrite history and bring to light the women creatives that have come before us, who have beaten the path and really many times went through trials and tribulations that we are fortunate to not have to deal with at least as much today. And one of those that we will be honoring is tonight is Sor Juana Inés de la Cruz. Not sure if I pronounced her name correct, so if I haven't, please let us know, and but you will be able to look her up and find out more information. She lived between 1651 to 1695, and Sor Juana was a self-taught scholar and poet of the Baroque school and Hermionite nun of New Spain, known in her lifetime as the 10th Muse. Born in 1651 in Mexico, her intelligence and scholarship became known throughout the country during her teen years. She joined the convent in 1667 for the academic and artistic freedom offered. Can you believe that? Pretty amazing that you have that freedom in a convent. And she wrote plays and poetry, and often challenged societal values, and she became an early proponent of women's rights. Her works were inventive, displaying wit and wide range of knowledge. With Sor Juana's growing recognition, however, came disapproval from the church. She responded with a stunning defense of all women's rights to obtain knowledge and famously wrote, quote, "One can perfectly well philosophize while cooking supper," unquote. She died in Mexico City in April of 1695. So thank you, Sor Juana, for what you have helped blaze the trail for all of us women artists today. And our first featured artist tonight is going to be in the category of theater. And her name is Irene Hernandez. And Irene is an actor, playwright, director, producer, singer, songwriter, designing artisan, poet, teaching artist, and artistic director of Dancing Fog Theater Company. So you can see one of our many interdisciplinary artists. Irene's plays, G, Thanks, Outside the Box, and One Size Fits All have been in Downtown Urban Arts Festival for 3 consecutive years and has been performed at Here Arts Center. With her theater company, Dancing Frog, Irene creates original works, including her lo-fi comedic web series, Brand New Me, which is on YouTube, and her latest project, a daycare musical comedy called Parental Guidance Suggested. Unfortunately, a true musical dramedy. And this was part of the New York Winterfest in January, and of this year it is now part of the Dream Up Festival coming up at the Theater for the New City. It's 7 performances, late August to September, so you'll be able to find out more on her website down here. And originally, she's daughter of Cuban immigrants and lives in Rockaway and has a BFA from Montclair State University. So welcome to the stage, Irene. And she is going to be presenting a collection of memories of her mother called Recollections of My Reflection.
My mom could create miracles with $20 and a trip to the local 5 and 10 down the street from our New Jersey apartment. She'd get Christmas gifts, Halloween costumes, New Year's party favors, and make everything special. When I was a little kid, I didn't feel like we were doing with less because my mom sheltered me with her craftiness. When I outgrew my pajamas with feet, she would cut out the feet and put socks on me instead. When my sister was brutally teased for her plastic Halloween costume, my mom spent the night sewing and created a fairy costume along with a sparkly crown and wand, along with a brutal combat for my sister for her bully. She made her say to her bully, "I might have a plastic costume, but you don't need a Halloween mask. You celebrate all year." My mom was MacGyver, but with a better stylist. Of all the holidays she would celebrate with me, the standout was New Year's Eve. I would wear my outgrown pajamas with feet and color a large paper bag with a black crayon and roll up the top of the bag to create a top hat. My mom would create her famous dip, mayonnaise, cream cheese, and a whole lot of garlic powder. Along with Coca-Cola and plain potato chips, my mom would take pictures of us with her Polaroid camera wearing our top hats. New Year's has not lived up to that memory for me since. As I aged and watched my mom do the same, she realized how I was very much her daughter. We share a dark sense of humor, can watch Hallmark movies with the same detachment and need to unwind, our inability to put up with or be bullshitted, our fierce intelligence, and creative ability to survive and make anything work with a sewing needle, $5, and a safety pin. She once said to me, "You're just like me. I'm so sorry." I was never apologetic. There's a certain heartbreaking cruelty in watching your mother deteriorate bit by bit. In hindsight, I realized that her gradual loss of her balance, her slight garble of her speech, and noticeable loss of her sharpness was due to several unnoticed, unvoiced, tiny strokes. My mom once said to me, "As long as you have your health, you can do anything." I've not seen my mom in at least 4 years. My hero, my best friend, my champion, my mirror. When there is discord between siblings that has lasted as long as you've been alive, that toxicity can poison your soul with the nastiness of a snake bite. Or in the case of said sibling, to move away with your kids, husband, and the advantage of my mom's evident fragility, and leave behind a broken heart ripped out of my chest. No forwarding address, my mother's phone disconnected as our contact. I write every word for her. I create every show that I know would make her laugh. Every part I play, song I sing, every new creation I make with my own hands, I do it because she cannot. To honor everything that she's given and sacrificed for me, I place the shards of my heart in my work so they can heal and keep beating with my love for her.
Wow, Irene, thank you so much for sharing your words about your mother and her legacy that she brought to you and that you're carrying on. I know it's very hard, so thank you for being up here and sharing that with us. And I wanted to let you know also that tonight's showcase was co-curated with me, along with, I had two great partners in helping me bring the artists together tonight, and Kelly Donovan, she's sitting over there, wave your hand. Thank you, Kelly. And you can see her bio at the end here. I'm not going to read it right at the moment, we'll talk more at the end. And Amy Ostreicher, who is going to be performing next, also helped curate the showcase. So I want to thank them both, and they're ongoing curators with me. So their contributions to IWAS is instrumental. Thank you. So next up, as I alluded, we're going to bring Amy up to the stage. And you can see Amy's longer bio on the back of the program. She has quite a illustrious legacy that she's leaving, a trail so far, and from TED Talks to her theater productions. And so please do read more about her and follow her on her website. But tonight she's presenting an emerging piece that she's putting together called Fibers, and chronicles the painstaking, arduous task of scavenging bits of information in order to piece together her grandmother's survival story. And she says there are no unreliable memories, just stories aching to be told, stories that have so much to teach us now more than ever. And she also says she's a playwright driven by the power of stories and the multidisciplinary elements that bring the unspeakable to life. And she hopes to explore how memory is transmitted and communicated after trauma, and what it means to carry on a legacy burdened by adversity, yet strengthened by resilience and resourcefulness. So welcome to the stage, Amy Ostreicher.
Hello. And thanks, Irene, for sharing that. And thanks for everyone for coming and for honoring the title Fibers. It's in honor of my grandmother, but also just the stories that, that we're really aching to uncover. This is from a piece I'm currently developing now. I'm going to use a script because I'm sick and I'm thinking with half a head, but here it goes. I'm going to hold this and put this to the side.
The dance.
Is it still? I don't know how mics work. I guess it needs to be connected. Like a fiber.
There we go.
Okay. Well, this is my grandma's robe. Whenever I think of my grandma, Hannah Stoschel, this is her. I think of a delicate old lady with wrinkly, soft skin in my childhood kitchen in a ranch-style house in Fairfield, Connecticut, cooking over our stove. Always cooking, never eating, always wearing this very robe. The best looking noodle kugel and the best tasting marrow from chicken bones in the best smelling homemade pot of soup, which was the best cure for anything. Every holiday meant that our kitchen was full, our mouths were stuffed, and our fridge was stocked with leftovers for weeks. My grandma loved to entertain with food, always food. It's how us Jews show we care. She always said, you must celebrate when the times are good. So when our 7th grade health project assignment was to do a good deed for someone else, I wanted to celebrate my grandma. Helene's my mom's college roommate. They grew up in Brooklyn together, bonding through their mutual Barbra Streisand obsession. Helene, I'm planning a surprise birthday party for Grandma. Do you want bring food, lots of food. She'll love that. So I called every relative I knew in Connecticut and every neighbor on my block. Hannah Stoschel was everyone's grandma. 20 friends and family members gathered around our kitchen table, waiting for my mom to bring my grandma through the front door. and I could not wait to see the look on her face. Okay, everyone. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday, Grandma! Oh, Imla, I'm sorry, I can't. So I stood right up to her with her tiny brown eyes and my camcorder and just zoomed on her eyes, and I saw a tear. My friends, I feel badly. I feel bad my friends are not here to celebrate with me. They all died in the war, and I asked God, why me? Why am I still alive to celebrate? So we all stood there just watching my grandma cry that she didn't deserve this. Thank you all for coming, she said. We had no words. Our appetite for kosher cookies, our birthday songs, they were taken away in a heartbeat. Wasn't I celebrating when the times were good? Celebration. One word became another world. Now celebrations were a painful reminder to my grandma. They were not a celebration, not a birthday party, but this one word opened up a new world that I wanted to know. So I started to collect words, and enough words to put together this story. My grandmother, Hannah Stochel, was blonde, brown-eyed, and 18 years old in Czechoslovakia. And she just married her first love when she was taken from her family and sent to the death camps of Auschwitz. As an excellent seamstress, she was able to survive the camps when she was forced by the Nazis to sew their uniforms. When the camps were finally liberated, a soldier said, "You're free." And she didn't even know what that meant. She found the rest of her family, eventually, who mistook her for a ghost, and learned that her husband and her oldest brother Samuel had been killed. Hannah and her 8 brothers and sisters miraculously arrived on Ellis Island on one ship, scarring her with this mysterious sphere of water for the rest of her life. She met Irving Stochel, who was a tailor and Polish ex-partisan on Delancey Street, right here. They married, established a successful sewing corporation, and lived out the American dream, sewing for the biggest department stores and celebrities of the day. My mom remembers shoes thrown at my grandma, the word greenhorn. My mom remembers that my grandma always longed for her first husband, and my mom remembers my grandma always loved food, family, and watching her soap operas every day at 12:30. But what else was in this world that we couldn't see? This was the last picture I have of my grandma. See how she's reaching out to me? It's like she knows something. It was April 25th, 2005 on Passover. We were celebrating when the times were good. I was 18 and I was the same age that my grandma was taken to the camps. And hours later, I was taken to the emergency room for a stomachache that wouldn't go away. My grandparents were sent home in a cab in the middle of the night, and when I woke up from a coma months later, I found out that they both had died. 27 surgeries later and 6 years unable to eat or drink anything by mouth, I couldn't remember my grandma's noodle pudding. I couldn't remember my grandma, and I couldn't remember how to have faith in anything anymore. Suddenly, I wanted to know more about my grandma's world. How did she rebuild her life and learn to celebrate when the times were good after her life had been so blasted apart? So I figured I'd ask my relatives. I had an Uncle David. Hey, Mia, you're not going to get anything. You know, my dad, Morris, he's your grandma's brother. Him, all the relatives, I'm telling you, nobody knows any one of the story. You know, when I was going to write my book, I realized there was so little information, like accurate information, that it was going to have to be a fiction based on historical events. None of this is nonfiction. It's very frustrating. Okay, that's okay. My Uncle David had 3 other siblings. Maybe they remembered something. Uncle Jeffrey. My dad, Morris, he kind of claims he remembers a couple of events. There are 2 or 3 stories he tells over and over, but who knows what's true anymore. Okay, 2 down, but girls are more sentimental. They had 2 sisters. Aunt Janie. Aunt Janie, do you remember anything about my grandma, Hannah? Well, you know, my dad, Morris, he's not really the sentimental type. I don't think he'll remember anything. Maybe because he had such a weird childhood. Like, when I went to visit him in Florida, he was at his house playing bridge the entire time. It's just kind of the way he's been. Okay, 3 down, 1 to go. Aunt Cheryl, does your dad remember anything? My dad, I mean, Morris can tell you about her lemon bars, but that's all. You know, it's like the telephone game. They all know a little bit of something and a lot of bit of nothing. Okay, so maybe Morris is a dead end. Mom, when did you find out Grandma was a Holocaust survivor? When? I just always knew it. But Mom, it's not like a fact, like your eyes are blue. It's, Amy, if you want to remember Grandma, why don't you and I just watch Fiddler on the Roof together? But I didn't give up. I tracked down 3 generations of relatives in 7 countries. I conducted hours of oral history interviews and transcribed hundreds of pages. I dug for history and I came up with something even more valuable: memory. And a Facebook message from my great uncle Morris. Hi Amy, my daughter Cheryl said you wanted some memories of your grandma. I don't remember much, just that her lemon bars still make me drool. She was a great baker, sewer, and I owe her for my wonderful fashion taste. She was the family's right arm. I'll continue tomorrow because my tears blind me. And Morris was already blind in one eye. So for the next year, I sent him questions, and he sent me hours of voice messages, and I typed up 300 pages of stories from the man who didn't remember everything. And I'm still typing, and he's still telling me. Here's the latest. My dearest Amy, sorry for the delay this time. I've been out of the house playing bridge, but here are your answers. 1, you asked me how your grandma made me feel. Besides her lemon bars, which always make my mouth water every time I think of them, I remember that she always loved me and made me feel important. It was your grandma that gave me the confidence that I've always had. Number 2, different? I can't even imagine how life would be different before the war and all of those millions who perished and were tortured. You know, it's always been a puzzlement to me that I've survived. I was such a sick child, and so many friends didn't survive, or my oldest brother. Now everyone's gone, except me. 3, my view of heaven, just being together with family who've passed away, still getting the care that I felt from each one of them. When I look at old pictures of my family, I just remember how special they made me feel. And I don't know if I ever told them. And I'm sorry I didn't. And last, what would Grandma be like today? She would have been proud to see you, Amy. That you have survived your own ordeal, and that she has survived hers. And so happy that now you're finding all this information about her and connecting our family. You know, I feel that as long as we carry our loved ones in our heart, they're truly never gone. We can never imagine the excruciating pain that your grandma was forced to endure. Yeah, we've all pictured it, and we know her stories, so we think we know, but we don't. I personally don't agree with those who say, as they come in, they come out. How would that be possible? Some people are born very poor and get very rich, and vice versa. Life is constantly changing and giving you opportunities. For example, my own life story is difficult for me to believe. From a small town in Europe, We came to the greatest country in the world, and we've been blessed with so many grandchildren and so many others who are in so many fields of human endeavors, touching so many lives. What we learn most from your grandma is to carry on, to do the right thing, and to set a good example for others to follow. I think that's the best way to honor their legacy. I hope all of this comes together eventually, and perhaps wishful thinking. I'm hoping you and my son David can really write that book together, and maybe when you feel I've told you enough stories, I'll send you more after my bridge competition next week. I'm up for Life Master. Thanks for listening. Love, Morris. Aunt Janie was right. Morris did love bridge, but this was a bridge from a word to another world. So, thanks, Uncle Morris, for teaching me how to play. That's Uncle Morris. Thank you. Flyers for Gutless and Grateful are right there. And thank you, guys.
Thank you, Amy. And thank you for bringing your parents tonight. We hope you feel better soon. And thank you for helping us hear the wonderful story about your grandmother and the bridge that these wonderful people have led for you to continue on. So, as we can hear so far, we have many stories that probably have gone unheard and unexplored, and I have to thank amazing women artists around the world, including Amy and Irene and those to come for taking the risk and opening the heart to discover those and sometimes have to dig at them to get those stories discovered and told, because as Amy says, now more than ever we need those stories for us to have the strength to do what we need to do in this day and age. So thank you again, Amy. And now we're going to move on to our dance feature. Hopefully I will say your last name right too. Lucia Travaglino, something like that. I'm going to have her say it later so she could say it the correct way. But thank you to Kelly for bringing Lucia to us. And Lucia was born and raised in Italy, and she started dancing when she was 5 years old and graduated one of 7 at the Dramatic Academy of Dance of Milan in 2008. After starring in the production of Karl Orff's Carmina Burana in Milan, Lucia moved to New York City, where she was part of Kelly Donovan's Borrowed Bones in 2009, and The Body Becomes a Messenger in 2016, which I think I saw both, which were amazing. And I think there's video of them somewhere. So again, check out Kelly Donovan's dancers and what she has put on in the past, which Lucia has been a part of. And she has specialized in the contemporary dance and tribal fusion belly dance. She was part of the Rising Sirens from Belly Queen Company for 4 years. She also worked with Sarah Solstice and choreographer Caitlin Hines since 2013, and joined Bloodline Dance Theater and Protege Inclusive Performance Company in 2017. And you can follow her on Facebook, and her email is on here if you'd like to get in touch with her. She's presenting a piece called Me 3, which was choreographed, inspired on the different masks we wear on our daily basis. As a career woman, wife, mother, and dancer. Welcome to the stage. I think we're going to have a little bit of time after we present our next and last artist for the evening to have a little open session of questions and discussion if anybody would like to ask the artists and each other questions. So flip to the back side here. Okay. So visual art is near and dear to my heart. I'm a fine art photographer myself, and that's what brought me here to New York originally. So it's always a special honor for me to present a visual artist, a kindred spirit. And tonight we have Corinne Jean White, and she's a theater and visual artist. She holds a MFA in theater directing from Columbia University. She has directed here and abroad on Broadway for Spiegelworld's Empire, on the cobblestone streets of Prague, at the Prague Quadrennial, at Access Theater, where her Hamlet CU3ED, I'm not sure what if that's cute or cute, debuted, directed, adapted, and designed. And in Salt Lake City, where she directed the Utah premiere of Nickel and Dimed at the Rose Wagner Theater for the city's Women's Week. And she has also worked with Performance Workshop in Taiwan, California Shakespeare Theater Company, Brooklyn Conservatory of Music's Opera Program, and Sundance Theater Lab, among others. Wow, that is a fabulous list. August 12th through September 4th, Corinne also has a solo show of her paintings at the Catalyst Gallery in Beacon, New York, which is another fantastic artist enclave of upstate, and where she is also she has also curated an artist salon featuring poetry, lectures, film, and performance. And she resides in Cold Spring, New York. So welcome to the stage, Corinne, and you can tell us a little bit about your process and introduce your painting that you've selected to bring to us tonight.
I really enjoyed the dance performance and the theater, and Amy did a beautiful, beautiful job with fibers. I got a peek of it a little earlier. And thank you, Heidi, and ILS for having me here tonight. I really appreciate it. So I'm a theater director and a visual artist. And thinking about the theme of fibers and interconnectedness, right? I think that bringing this piece and talking about process probably fits neatly. I like to tell stories. I think that all of us tend to be drawn to stories. And it was through the act of storytelling, working on a script for a play called Rivers and Tributaries, that I began to find a process for painting. In the process of writing this script, and it was the first time I'd ever written a play. I had been directing, but I hadn't written a play yet. And I would hit these sort of speed bumps where I didn't know, and I see the nod in the back, I'd hit these speed bumps where I'm like, I don't know what this moment is supposed to be. So I'd put a placeholder. I'd put something in there that maybe would kind of make me cringe. Maybe I'd just let it make me cringe for a while, and then I would sort of move forward to a section that I knew about. And then that trick didn't work as well. It worked kind of, but not in all situations. And since the play also was about visual artist, my father, I began working on some large-scale paintings. And I found that by working on canvases that were rather large, it placed me more in my body, and it required me to be much more physical. It also allowed me to work from a more intuitive space. So the play never disappeared. It wasn't like I forgot that I was working on a play and that I, had rehearsals and actors and a whole team of people that had expectations about this story. But I kind of was able to let it go to the back of my mind. And I was able to invest in the canvas. But I didn't want to execute a story there. I just wanted to feel open. I wanted to have that be sort of a respite from this space where I needed to tell a specific story. And I learned that I needed to create some tricks for that. I needed to be sneaky and trick myself, because as a storyteller, I want to make something. I want to have an idea and then see it come on the page or come on the stage or come on a canvas. And so what I discovered is that if I thought of more than one image, whether it was a memory or a fictional, something I just sort of conjured up, if I thought of maybe 2 or 3 and they weren't related to each other, the sort of clash of those images would kind of take me out of one and allow me to be a bit more open and work more from an emotive and maybe intuitive space. And that worked. But I also know sometimes I'd see something and I'm like, ooh, I like this. It kind of like, I'd feel kind of like jazzed about it. I'm like, ooh, I kind of want to get into this. And then if I started pulling something, teasing it out just a little too far, I learned, oh wait, I can stop. And what if I just rotate the canvas? Because it's just going to look different then. And again, that was another sort of trick that got me out of my head. So through sort of these are the 2 primary tricks that I use when I'm working on, when I'm working in visual art, when I'm working with painting. And I found that it works. And I found that I can tell when it's time for me to stop a painting. It's typically when the composition sort of resolves maybe more than one orientation, or there's something inside of my gut that feels like, okay, it's time to stop. But afterwards, I then, of course, can find some stories in it. And that's what I really enjoy. I really enjoy the having some distance from it, and then having conversations with people and figuring out what is it that they see. And maybe even upending that by flipping the canvas. Like, okay, well, what do we see now? And in Beacon right now, I have a show of paintings, and the stories that it just opened on Saturday, and in the past 2 days, I now have layers of meaning that just continue to sort of inform how I view these canvases. And that's sort of, it's a pleasure that I'm able to get from the visual art that feels, again, interconnected with the work in theater, which is a dialogue with audience. So can the audience come and have enough space in what they're seeing where they can insert themselves? Not so open that it's nebulous and vague and they aren't sure what they're watching and they don't, they leave, confused. And confusion is a useful emotion, but that there's maybe a little bit more than that. And that they're able to maybe exit the space and have a dialogue with someone, but that there is, again, some sort of flow that happens between what is being presented and the viewer. So that's where the sort of interconnectedness, the fibers, I think, lie between the visual art and hopefully you and the visual art and theater. So I'm happy to talk about any, and answer any questions that anybody might have, but I feel like I've said enough about this process. Thank you.
Thank you, Corinne. You speak very well to the visual art process and getting us thinking about ways to engage with visual art differently and turning things inside out and upside down. So thank you for sharing that fibers and connection component for tonight. So I would like to, I think we have a few minutes, bring up Irene and Lucia and Corinne, now that you've sat back down. Come on back up and see if anybody, first of all, when you come up on stage, give them please another round of applause for the amazing work that they are producing. And thank you for sharing with us. What a beautiful picture. I got to get one here, but I'm manning the phone, or womaning the phone. Kelly will get some. Great. So does anybody have any questions out there for any of the artists or all of them? Yes.
I have heard recently about a couple of mostly recording artists who 10 years or so after recording a particular album decided to go back and re-record that exact album based on who they are now as opposed to who they were then. Do you feel, or do you think you would feel once something has been published or performed or shown in a show or whatever, that some years down the road you might take that piece again and rather than considering, oh, it's finished, it's done, it's past history, I'm going to move on, go back and say, I'm going to work with this again and interpret it as the person I am now as opposed to the person I was then?
That's a great question. It's a loaded question, right? Would we like to take it?
It's funny that you asked that question because the piece that was mentioned in my bio, Hamlet Cubed, it's an adaptation of Hamlet that I developed with an actor, Lloyd Mulvey, here in the city. And we started rehearsals on that piece just last week. And so we're going to be presenting some live performances of it, and we'll be doing some film. But that's part of this sort of treatment that we're doing a little bit differently, is we're interested in, where before it was sort of like we were asking some very large questions about installation and performance and space. And we were also interested in seeing, could this thing that we were testing out with an actor embodying Hamlet and the characters, but not taking on the roles of the characters, but Hamlet's experience through Hamlet, and not as a dream and not as a memory. Will that work? And we found that it kind of did. So that's no longer the question. And we wanted a piece that was meaty enough that we could sort of sharpen our tools and use some muscle against. And we hadn't collaborated in a while. And our new question is, how delicate can we get with this? What are the quieter moments where maybe we could have perhaps muscled through or pushed certain moments, and that worked and it landed, but how light can we get it? Where can we find those delicate moments is a new question. And also, what is the treatment with film? So it's the same performer, same director, and same adaptation, but material, the approach is a little bit different, and the kind of like all the little nooks and crannies, we just want to get further into it, and it's fun. It's a lot of fun. Do either of you have something you want to share?
Yes. So for me, a lot of the pieces I do my solos, I choreograph them, but I also leave a space to improvisation. So for me, like say I used this music 5 years ago, and the piece was totally different. even though I do have some point that I always hit, and you know, I take inspiration from the same theme. Since my life has changed so much in the past 5 years, maybe not 10, but like definitely also. But I definitely feel like for me, if I do solos, definitely they're never the same. Even when I really choreograph them, there's still like the emotion is still different, the audience is different, how I feel that day is different, how my body feels is different. So I have the freedom when I do my own choreography and when I do my solos, because I don't have to look exactly like everybody else when I do a group piece. And also I have a little more freedom on sometimes playing with the audience or the stage or things like that. Now, pieces that I choreographed more in groups, that would be a bit different. I haven't reworked something set like that, and most of the time when I do group pieces, I work with choreographers, so I haven't had that so long experience, 10 years, but I did work with Caitlin Hines, and she's a choreographer I'm still working with, and we started a piece 4 years ago, and when I started I was actually pregnant, so even there, like every show we did, I was like, my belly was getting bigger, the costume was getting modified, and then we was like, okay, and I had baby, and we were like, okay, we're gonna take a break. And afterwards it was really interesting because they actually asked her about that piece where she thought it was retired, so we actually brought a new dancer. I wasn't pregnant anymore, so we could do more fun stuff on the floor, and so the piece totally changed, and now we decided to retire it again, and they being asked again, so we're gonna rework it again. So I feel like it's interesting how we thought, okay, that's done, and then something from the outside pulled us in. And I mean, it's really interesting because I mean, Caitlin, she's the choreographer, so most of the inputs are from her, but we do more of a creative effort, so there's a lot of, it is a trio, so there's the three of us working it. It's been only 4 years, but I feel like I already experienced something like that, so we'll see in 10 years, in 5-6 more years, I don't know, but I definitely feel like there's a lot of it in it, especially if you leave a little room for like your life to come with it. I don't know if I answered, sorry.
Yeah, I'm actually kind of dealing with that as well. My current production that I'm doing right now, it's a daycare musical dramedy called Parental Guide Suggested, and unfortunately true musical dramedy. And I wrote it about a year ago, and I wrote 7 songs about Play-Doh and kids who pee and having to clean up after that. And so like it was dark and funny, and it had an very happy ending when I get fired at the end. And so I go into the audience and I'm giving high fives because I'm fired and happy because I'm out of there. Because you see her working throughout the whole thing, and there's an anger as I'm talking to the audience and singing. And in my rewrite for this current festival for Dream Up at Theater for New City, couple things happened. I wrote 2 more songs. I also had to gradually recast everybody except one actor and myself. And and so I have a whole new cast, and it's changed the tone of the whole thing. And in my experience of the past year, and being alive, and striving as an artist, and being broke and dealing with it, there's all of a sudden there's a sadness, and a desperation that's brought, that I found in the piece of, and the last song now has a bittersweet taste to it. So instead of going to high five everybody, hey, I'm fired, I'm out of here, it's, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. Because when you're a teacher's assistant, you make $10 an hour and you're working to be broke. And so all of a sudden she has nothing saved, and all of a sudden she goes to the audience, same song, same high fives, but it's more about making herself feel better and reaching out to people. But you see the desperation, the oh God, what am I going to do? And leaving on that note instead of like having that having that happy ending. And it took a rewrite. It took 2 songs, and it took a whole new cast, and all of a sudden it's a completely different show.
Thank you. Wow, we're getting some really great advice and inspiration, as well as experiencing some amazing artistry tonight. So again, thank you to Dixon Place and all the great staff here for providing this amazing venue for us. And so yes, as a recap, International Women Artists Salon is a platform for any woman creative, any age, any generation, stage of career, location, any discipline, anywhere around the world. It's growing, and I'm getting ready to build hopefully a custom designed web platform in another year or so. But right now we have Facebook, and we have Twitter, Instagram, and our YouTube channel, which we are going to be having sort of a more official launch, along with a new website, which will be provide a lot more information for our partners and sponsors, as well as the members and potential members. And so please follow us in whatever social media you currently use, so to stay tuned for what's upcoming. And email-wise, you can find on the back of the program, but it's you can email me at womenartsalon@gmail.com. Again, if you'd like to join, partner, or sponsor in any way. And the radio show we have been doing for about 5 years as well, in tandem with the time here at Dixon Place. It's called Salon Radio, and we thank the platform we used to be on, City World Radio, which was an internet radio platform, and we are now this month converting to a platform called Podbean, which is a fantastic podcast platform. So we're moving to the podcast realm, so that hopefully it'll be a little easier to access the programs, but we still will be launching them weekly. We're just in a little bit of a transition right now, so there's not a regular time or date, but let's stay connected, and we will be announcing that. It used to be Thursday nights, so I might try to stay with Thursday night as a release. But we have over 250 shows over this past 5 years that we have, and we're archived. I believe you can still hear many of them, at least from the last more recent 2 years, on cityworldradio.com. If we just want to go on there and cruise through there to find some of our old shows. Even if they have what they talked about has gone by, you can still gain some amazing tips, inspiration, hear about some amazing historical women, women who have inspired these artists, tools, resources, and maybe even collaborators. So until we get our International Women Artists Salon on Podbean, please check that out. So, and then also we're trying to work towards getting back to my monthly salon gatherings for women artists. We happen to all be women here tonight, but these showcases are meant to, bring our public and supporters, non-artists, male supporters, and collaborators and colleagues as well. But monthly, we try to hold Salonista gatherings. So again, that's a way for women creatives to come together, different disciplines, and try out some work, just talk, connect, find synergies, collaborations. So we're going to be starting that back up on the second Saturday of each month. And someone can host that. A member can host that at their apartment or studio or favorite public art place or public base. So those are just a few of the things that we have going on currently. Every March on International Women's Day, we have what's called Salon Symphony, and it's always March 8th. And we have anywhere from about 25 to 30 international women artists living in New York, paying homage to a woman creative in their home country, and it's phenomenal. It's an amazing production. So if you're from another country and you haven't been in Salon Symphony yet, we'd love to get you in. But come, put that on your calendar. It's always March 8th. So just, on our iPhones, right, or your smartphones, you can put the recurring March 8th in perpetuity. And many other things we do. So I'm always looking to collaborate, to synergize, partner in whatever way. So reach out and let me know what you're doing. We'll share the news and find ways to help each other. So hope that answered your question. I tell a long story. I keep saying I'm not a stage person, but when I get up here, I'm like, wow, I really like this. But again, thank you to our listeners around the world, and to Dixon Place, Ellie Coven, and to all of you, and again to Kelly and Amy for helping to curate tonight's show. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next month, hopefully.